The show can't start until we crack open a bottle of Revelton. Whether it's their crisp, clean vodka, the bold spice of their rye whiskey, the rich smoothness of bourbon, or the original honey whiskey that started it all, every pour is a taste of craft and passion straight from the heart of Iowa. So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and get ready to relax, laugh, and enjoy the show.
Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
You can lift your weights, you can run your miles, but you ain't got what's been earned through trials. It ain't in the gym, ain't in the use, it's in busting knuckles and hard-lived truth. Back's been sore since 99, but I still stack wood and I'll still outgrind. Call me slow, call me old, but I got hands that could bend pure gold. Ain't about muscle, ain't about speed, it's about the fire when the time comes to lead. You can talk real tough, you can flex real wide, but when it's time to dig in, boys, step aside. Old man strength, built to last, years of work, no need for class. Ain't no quit, ain't no doubt, you don't know tough till you've been worn out.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Old Man Strength, brought to you from the AKC Andrew Downs Marketing Studios and sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company and Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. I am your host, Chris Shipley, not joined tonight by Aaron Wall. Aaron, of course, last week was in Dublin for the Iowa State game, and he texted me about 20 minutes ago and said, Abby's got a volleyball practice that just got scheduled, so here we are. Solo tonight, but I do have an amazing guest, and I'm super excited to talk to this gentleman. I've seen some of his posts for the last few years as a Cyclone fan. He was formerly the head of the Dallas-Fort Worth Alumni Association. So if you're a Cyclone fan, I'm sure you know our guest tonight. And man, what a weekend for Cyclone fans. We had an unbelievable, it's probably the best home opening game I've seen in Jack Trice. I can't remember the last time that we were throwing the ball all over the place in the middle of the third quarter and still trying to run the score up. It's a nice little feeling. And then, I'm excited to talk a little bit about my epic day Saturday at the RV Village and things like that. So with that, nobody's ever turning in to listen to me or Aaron. They're always here for our guests. So as I said, I'm super excited to bring on our guest tonight. He is a well-known Cyclone fan. Travels all over to all kinds of different sites. I think the first time I met him was at the Vegas game against UNLV in person. Our guest tonight, Barry Peterson. Barry, thank you so much for coming on Old Man Strength.
Hey, how's it going, Chris?
It's going
Happy
great.
to be here.
Yeah, super excited to talk to you tonight, especially after, as I said, probably one of the best opening games I've seen in Jack Trice. Like I looked at my wife and I said, I can't remember the last time we were in a home opener the week before Iowa, and we are not concerned about what we're showing here. We're throwing the ball all over the place in the middle of the third quarter, up by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was. I think everybody was a little shocked by that because we're so used to Matt keeping everything close to his cards tight, and it was fun to watch. Just from the first play on, just with the bomb and just goes from there, and it just kind of, they scored on that first drive, and then we just shut them down. So it was a pretty fantastic.
When Flora ran that kickoff back and ran out of bounds, unfortunately, but we all thought he'd scored a touchdown. I looked at my friends and I was like, "What is going on?" Like we kicked a 63-yard field goal and we just ran a touchdown back on a kickoff. What world do we live in? So
yeah, special teams. So, where were we 3 years ago on that?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no doubt whatsoever.
Quite an evolution.
Right. Well, Barry, we'll get into the Cyclone Florida, but as we always do here on Old Man Strength, when we start the show and bring on a guest, we tell the story that this show started with me and a former co-host. We always talked about our dads and the influence that we had on our dads, that our dads had on us. So let's start there. Let's talk a little bit about where you grew up and where are you from.
All right. So as luck would have it, I'm actually at my dad's house right now as we're speaking. So I'm spending I live in Dallas, and so I decided to spend the week here instead of driving all the way back. I'll spend the week here so I can go to Cyhawk next week. So I am in my dad's basement. This is all the stuff behind me is his memorabilia, Cubs stuff, Bears. I'm not a Bears fan. I'm a Cubs fan, but he's got a lot of stuff on the wall. Some of it I've gave him, but he's upstairs probably watching Cubs highlights from today after their win. But my dad, I grew up in Geneseo, Illinois, right across the river near Moline, about 20, right on Interstate 80, home of, used to be, everybody knew it because of the deck truck stop and also the Cellar restaurant. And then high school football is Geneseo's big thing. It always used to be, it's not as much now, but that was our thing growing up. My dad was a construction worker. He worked, it's, funny, we were just talking about this a few minutes ago when we were having a little dinner. He worked in the summers, so he didn't get to go to a lot of our ball games. He didn't get to take us fishing and camping and all the things that, most dads would do on the weekends, because he was making money. He'd work 6-7 days a week in the summer. You have to make hay when the sun's shining, and because he was concrete construction. So doing highways and stuff like that. So growing up, he was not around as much as we would have liked, but he when he could come, he came. And my uncle, who happens to also be in town this weekend, we visited with him. He's kind of was our surrogate summer dad, and he would take us fishing and camping. And I learned to water ski behind his bass boat down in Lake Shelbyville in central Illinois. We caught, crappie by the truckload and white bass and stripers and the whole, and some of my fondest memories. He introduced me to George Carlin when I was 14 years old, yeah. So we have so many great memories from that. So I was, my dad was a great role model, but hard work, things like that. I developed a lot of responsibility from him, and as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate that even more. We've had our ups and downs like any father and son, but since as an adult, he's been a tremendous resource, and he's getting up there. So it's I know there's a clock, and when eventually he's not there, there's going to be a giant hole, giant gap. So.
Yeah, I can sympathize with that a little bit. My dad worked construction. He actually hung sheetrock for years, and did it on his own and things like that. Didn't work. He would remodel. He'd have an ad in the paper, and he'd go work on people's houses, right, and remodels and things like that. And yeah, same thing. A lot of sports that dad couldn't make it to. I couldn't think of a practice that dad ever took me to. You know what I mean? It was either mom dropping me off, or I got a ride from the coach, or whatever else.
I rode the bike. I rode my bike a lot.
Yeah, back then we rode our bikes because the world wasn't as crazy, for sure. And then same thing. My dad passed away in 2011. It was actually 19 days before my marriage to my current wife right now. And
oh, geez.
And I can remember we were I remember my dad always used to say when he was at when he went to his father's funeral, how he wished he would have listened to him more. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like, come on, seriously. Like, and I remember I was trying to repair something in the house here one time, and I was channeling what I like to call my inner Melvin by dropping a bunch of cuss words and things like that. And I remember just going and sitting down on the couch, and I sat there, and Stacy goes, "What's the matter?" And I go, "This is one of those times I wish I could call my dad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to do this, and he would know how to do it, and I should have listened to him more. Like, I should have Been
Yeah.
when he was working on stuff instead of being in the house or whatever, I should have been out there with him learning how to do it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot when I work on anything. When I grab a tool or something like that, I instantly would be like, I wish I would have watched my dad more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm thinking about the times I grabbed the wrong tool.
oh yeah, yeah. Or my problem was is my dad would say, "Go get the hammer. It's on the workbench on the right hand side." Well, that was the only place I looked. I didn't bother to look anywhere else, because that's where he said it was. And then,
Yep.
after about 10 minutes, he's storming in the house.
Yep.
Jesus
Yeah, I
Christ,
get
God
it.
forbid you learn, you look around and you actually look for it. I go, well, I was looking for where you said it was.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, for sure.
It sounds very familiar.
Yeah, well, I think it's that I think it's just that generation that they grew up with, right? To be honest with you. But
Yeah.
yeah, hard work for sure. So, what what lessons did your dad teach you that have kind of helped you as you've gotten older with that work ethic?
Um, the lessons are, do the job, do it right, do it once. The whole measure twice, cut once. Um, be have integrity. Integrity is huge. Something I really hang my hat on for myself is, you're only as good as your word. And if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do. I can't always promise I can follow through, but I'm going to do everything within my power to follow through.
Right.
Um, like I said, do whatever you do, go all in. Don't half-ass it. I wasn't a good athlete when I was a kid. It wasn't that. My brother was. That wasn't me. I was kind of the smart kid. Um, I didn't get to make my dad proud in those ways, and that was a big deal to him. And I felt that, that there was something, that there was a hole there. I was the kid, in the outfield in baseball, kind of just staring off into space. It wasn't. I just didn't have an aptitude for it. I thought when I learned basketball, when I played little league basketball, I thought the press was a mechanical device. When what the hell is a full court press? It's a mechanical. I'm looking around for it. We're going to do
Right.
the press. And that sounds crazy because
And don't want to ask because you don't want to look dumb.
but yeah, but we weren't, back then. I grew up in the '70s, in mostly the '70s, and I went to high school in the '80s. Sports wasn't as prevalent,
Right.
and we weren't a hockey house, we weren't a basketball house as far as NBA. There was a lot of that stuff wasn't on TV. It'd be on like a Saturday afternoon. But my dad, he would, he had us going. It's like you've got chores, you have things to do. I didn't grow up on the farm, but um, my grandparents farmed, so we spent a lot of time out there. And my dad was raised on a farm, so he believed in, get up early, you get your stuff done, and then you do more stuff.
Right.
He's never idle. Even to this day, he's 83 years old, 82 years old, and he's out there mowing the lawn every 3 days, and he's got a beautiful flower garden and all this stuff. Just stay busy, do the things.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kinds of things I learned from him. I learned a lot of things from all my family members. My grandfather was a farmer. He was a huge influence in my life, and we lost him too early. But man, the little pearls of wisdom that he dropped along the way, just phenomenal stuff. He was one of those still waters run deep type guys. He didn't say a lot, but when he spoke, you tended to listen because it was usually worth listening to. There wasn't a lot of idle chatter with him. He was, if he said something, it's like, oh, Grandpa's talking. Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut your mouth and open your ears. So I got a good work ethic. I've maintained that throughout my career, on different careers I've had. I'm a worker. I'm a get it done guy, but I like to play hard and work hard.
For sure.
That's something else. My dad didn't play hard. My dad would, he was working all the time. So I didn't want to be that. I wanted more of a balance. And maybe I overdid a little bit at times. I'm sure I did. I know I did.
Yeah. My dad, as I said, did a lot of hard work too. He actually, though, was very very adamant that I enjoyed my childhood, right? Like he would always say, "You're going to work the rest of your life." So I can remember, some summers during high school. I played high school soccer, which was at that time was played during the summer. Um, the season was during the summer, so there were 3 summers during high school I didn't work because I had soccer and I had practice. And my dad was like, "I don't want you working. I want you, to you're going to work the rest of your life. So these are your summers to enjoy yourself." My parents didn't have a lot of money, but somehow every year, the week of summer camp for Boy Scouts, I was able to afford to go. Like he was
Yeah.
adamant I was going to go to that, and I've always remembered that. And when I went to college, he had just started his own business, and he was working that, and he was paying for college for me to go. And this has always been a profound lesson that I learned, was he was paying tuition, and at that time it wasn't cheap. It was $2,500 a semester, which seems like chump change right now, but back in '89, that was a lot of money. And
Yeah.
and I, full disclosure, didn't do what I should have done. I partied too much and didn't go to class, and I remember after 3 semesters, they sent me home. I got removed
Wow.
for academic probation, and I remember going home and just like sick to my stomach, like what he's gonna lose his mind. And we sat at the kitchen table, and he just looked at me and he said, "I always thought it would be me that would disappoint you, and not me, and not you the other way around." In other words, I always thought I was going to get to a point where I wasn't going to be able to pay the bill, and I was going to disappoint you. And I was like, "Oh, like Jesus, that's the worst thing you could have said to me." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, I'm never, ever, ever going to take that for granted, and I'm never going to borrow another dime from him. Like, not that he wouldn't have gave it to me,
No.
but he worked his ass off for 3 semesters, and I blew it. Like,
Yep.
who does that? You know what I mean?
I did it.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I went to JUCO for a year. I went to Iowa State for a year. I learned how to party at Iowa State, learned how to have a really good time, kind of came into myself a little bit. And then after my 3rd semester at Iowa State, I was told very, very eloquently by my faculty advisor, Barry, and this is a quote, "Barry, it's time to get the fuck out of Dodge." So I took a semester off, went home, got a little bit of humble pie, worked in a slaughterhouse for a few months, worked some different jobs, and I came back in the fall. Worked at Merle Hay Mall part time. Was a part time student. Got my residency, so I wouldn't have to pay out of state tuition. I got a bunch of student loans, and I paid the rest of my way because he wasn't going to pay for any more, and I got it. I get it now. I totally get it.
Yep.
Yeah, I was a dumbass. I was having a great time, but I was a dumbass. And I went back and I did better. I changed majors. I got something that was probably, I got out of, I thought I wanted to be an ME.
Yeah.
The differential equations and Laplace transforms, decided I didn't want to be an ME. I got something a little bit more hands-on, industrial technology.
Okay.
So went down that path, and here I am today.
Boy, it's crazy how some people's stories are kind of similar. I left. I was getting a business major, and I remember my dad telling me when he left, he goes, "Okay, well, when you go get that business degree, you can show me how to run business, and I'll show you how to make money." That was his quote. So, so I got removed for that. I remember I called him once because I knew I was in trouble. I knew my grades were in trouble, and I took this leisure studies class, which was full of football players, by the way. It was full of football players.
Of course it was.
And I remember calling him one time, and I was like, "I think I'm going to change my major to leisure studies." And he's like, he goes,
I bet you that went over well.
"Well, what is that?" And I'm like,
I don't know.
Well, it's like you can be a park ranger, or you can work in the DNR, which none of that was interesting to me. Like, I never fished in my life, right? Or you can like run wellness programs in Fortune 500 companies and things like that. And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, okay." Years later, I found out after he got off the phone, he hung up the phone, and he looked at my mother and he said, "I'll be damned if he's gonna change that major to leisure studies. He can be fucking leisure at home for free. I'm not paying $2,500 a semester for that." So
that's great.
So when I went back, I was like, I'm tired of taking these classes that don't have anything to do with what I want to do. Like I'm sick of that. So I remember going into my academic advisor and saying, what are the majors that I'm closest to graduating to? And she said, what? I said, what are the majors that I'm close to? And if there's something I'm interested in, I'll pick it. And she gave me like, I don't know, 3 or 4 options. And one of them was political science. And I loved the political scene. Like I don't now, I hate it now, but I was fascinated with that. And I did have envisions of becoming a lawyer. And I said, I'll take the political science degree. And she was like, what? And I said, sign me up for that. I think I was like 55 credits or some silly number, you know. I was like, I because at this point, I know I need a college degree, but I also know that I can do anything I want to do here. So, and that's what I did. That's how I picked my political science degree and did great ever since then. So,
Yeah.
kind of the same thing, but yeah, leisure studies, not such a great idea. So,
Yeah, that's not going to make Dad happy. That's for
right.
sure.
So let's talk about your Iowa State time. What made you choose Iowa State?
So my best friend from 7 years old, his sister went to Iowa State, and we came out there to visit. And I just fell in love with it. Her boyfriend got us into a party. We were in high school, and I was like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. I was kind of a nerdy high school kid, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had zero social game whatsoever. I was kind of lost in my high school because I didn't fit into any of their boxes. And so I went out there and I found, I've learned I was like, this is a lot of fun. And I knew it was a good engineering school, and I wanted to be an engineer. And so I just kind of connected the dots and decided that's where I wanted to go. And once I decided that's where I was going to go, that's where I was going to go. I'm pretty headstrong. And when I decide something, I kind of lock down on it, and good luck. Something else I learned from my dad is being stubborn as a mule. So here we are,
Yeah.
40 some odd or 40 years later or whatever it is.
So I always ask this question because it fascinates me that I moved my daughter in 2018 to Helzer Hall. And I can vividly remember moving her in, but I do not for the life of me remember the first day that I moved into college. I couldn't tell you if my mom and dad were there. I don't remember a thing about it. Do you remember your move-in day at Iowa State?
I do vaguely. It was odd because I was in a triple out at the Towers, and I was supposed to have 2 roommates. Yeah, out at the Towers.
Which
And
tower?
I was in Wallace,
Okay.
Hartman Hall.
I was in Knapp.
6th floor. Yeah, 6th floor Hartman.
So
yeah, so I was in a triple, and my first roommate was, I can't remember his name. Something Jewett or something like that was his last name. Like, and he had a really odd first name. I remember that. Norbert Jewett or something like that. I can't remember. And there was another guy, I can't remember his name to save my life. But the Norbert or whatever his name is, he moved out immediately. He got re-roomed, because when you were in a triple, you were basically on a waiting list to move up, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And then the other guy, he moved out, and I ended up with a totally different guy than I initially thought I was going to have, or somebody I'd never met before.
Yeah.
And his name was Jerry Thomas, and Jerry Thomas was the character of all characters. Jerry, if you're out there, reach out, man. I'd love to reconnect. He had been like a ranger or a guide or some sort of guide out in Montana, and worked in a national park or something for summers. And he came back with an elk rack that we had on our wall in the dorm. And his thing it was like a 30-point rack. I mean, I'm exaggerating somewhat, but this thing was huge, and we'd have our hats hanging on it. And it was and he was as country got. And he had a charm. He was charming, and the women loved him. He was big redhead farm boy, and I learned a lot from that kid, as far as how to talk to girls, and just talk to him and charm him, so to speak.
Right.
He had a gift, and it's a gift I didn't have, and it's a gift I wanted when I saw how effective it was with him. Um, so, but as far as the move in, because I'm digressing a little bit, as far
No,
as the move in goes, I don't remember. Because Dad wouldn't have been around. I think Grandma and Grandpa might have drove me up, or I might have just drove myself up and moved myself in, because my dad, we had like a conversion van. And I
yeah.
probably loaded that up with a bunch of crap and moved in myself. But honestly, I don't remember.
See,
Um,
I think I think you might be right, because I do not remember at all my move in. I mean, I racked my brain that day trying to remember when I was moving Caitlin in. I couldn't remember one detail of it, and I
yeah,
do
I
remember
remember moving out.
I
I remember
yes,
leave. I remember
yeah,
leaving Ames.
yeah,
5, 6, 7 years later.
yeah, right. I know.
Seriously.
Yeah, you and I had some extended. What's
Yeah.
that line? Most people go to school for 8 years, but they call them doctors, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
was I went to JUCO for 1 year, or community college, I guess, at Blackhawk in Moline, East Moline,
Okay.
and
Yeah, I know where that's at.
yeah, and then I was I dropped out for a semester, and I took a year part time. So by the time it was done, I was there for 6.5 years. But
Yeah.
like I said, one of those semesters was blank because there was no school.
Yep.
I didn't get a ton of, I didn't get, let's face it, I didn't get a ton of credits my first 3 semesters in Ames, because my grades weren't good enough. And then I went part-time. So, it worked out in the end. And I was in no rush to leave Ames. I was having a blast. I
Right.
was, I was ready to move on when it was time, but man, I loved Ames. I loved my time there. I was having the time of, I had the best, had made the best friends you could possibly have. People I uh, still hang out with today. It's people that I love dearly. They're dear to my heart. I talk to them all the time, and that's the most important people in my life. For the most part, I found in Ames, one way or the other.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm so envious of people like you, and when I talk to Keith Schrage, and I talk to my wife, and she still is friends with her roommates and the people that she went to college with, and even on Twitter sometimes I will hear people talk about their friends that they had met, and the iconic places they'd go and have dinner or have drinks or whatever, and I just kind of missed out on all that. I after I left and got readmitted back in, I decided Ames probably wasn't a good place for me because I made bad choices. So I lived in Ankeny. I met my first wife at the time, who I was dating at the time. We moved into an apartment in Ankeny, and I drove back and forth every day. So I didn't have roommates. I didn't have people I hung out with after class. I didn't go to the bars and things like that. The first time I'd ever been in Size Roost was literally this April, when my daughter, we went to Size House of Trivia for the first time. I had scored some tickets, and Caitlin begged me to go to Size Roost with her afterwards, and I went. That was the first time I had ever been in Size Roost, and the first time I'd ever been in Welch Avenue Station was in 2017. So
Wow.
yeah,
So I will tell you, let's be 100% clear. Size Roost, back when we were in school, was a place you wanted to be. And
I'm aware.
I go,
I think
now I
people,
go in there. Yeah. Now I go in there, and it's not, it's a bunch of people standing around looking at their phones.
right?
Um,
Yeah.
and it's just way different. I mean, it turned into a fern bar for a while. I was, the '80s were a great time in Campus Town. I worked at the Cave In. I
Oh,
was a bar,
really?
yeah, I was a bartender, and they had me bouncing. I was kind of undersized to be a bouncer, but whatever. I did some bar backing, bartending. We hung out at people's. There was a place. You probably don't remember Granddaddy's.
No, I don't. Mm-mm.
Granddaddy's burned down. There was a lot of. I'm not gonna throw anything out there because I don't want to get sued. But there was speculation that there was, maybe some help when that burned
Sure.
down.
Yeah.
But that place was that place was fun. We spent a lot of time at Top of the Town and that place and, you know, the stuff, you know, downtown. Didn't really go to Whiskey River or any of that. That wasn't really in our, I would, you know, Beamers.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time at Beamers. And what was the sports bar underneath, the Sports Page or something like that? Or
Yeah, I think it was Sports Page, and then there was People's. I remember People's.
yeah,
People talked about a lot of people went to People's quite a bit.
yeah,
I
we went there. That
I was
opened up late in my tenure.
So what year did you graduate?
I graduated in the fall of '90.
Okay, so we were there overlapping. I was there in '89
Yeah,
to '94. So
yeah,
yeah, I tell Caitlin, it's so funny to just listen to her experience and my experience. Like she would talk about going to the bar and things like that, but I was like, you didn't really live if you didn't go to a barn party and hop on a random bus at some pickup stop and just got dropped off at a barn and drank
lodge
all night
parties.
for $10 and then randomly hope that this bus was going to take you back to the same spot. And I think now and go, how is that even possible that people did that? Like the 54-year-old man in me now is like the insurance liability that I just reeks of that. I can't imagine that happening now.
Yeah, so I remember lodge parties were a thing.
Yeah.
There was a lodge. I don't remember where it was, you know, because I always got hauled to it, so I never drove to it, I don't think. And that was something we did as a dorm floor. We had a lodge party every year. That was a big deal. I remember that. We had, I got involved with a group of guys, still friends with all of them, or damn near all of them today, the ones that survived. That called, and we were pretty notorious, the Big Schwanks. And it was we were a party group, and we had a van I owned the van. I had the title to the van. It was a van. It was an old 7840 Econoline panel van, and I had painted it. We had painted it with a roller and traffic paint. So it was traffic yellow, and then we had spray painted the rims and the bumpers and the roof, and then we had across the side we had painted stenciled across in red spray paint the Big Schwanks, and it was all the way across the side on one side, and the other side was the Cyclone logo, the tornado logo from that era.
Mm-hmm.
And we would haul that thing down. We would either drive it, tow it, push it. We would get that down to the tailgate every Saturday, one way or the other. And we would have, well, since you didn't go to Size Reach, you don't know who Scott Stanglin was. He was the DJ there.
Okay.
He would come out and DJ our tailgate. And he had big speakers and the whole 9 yards. And we'd have, you know, we were the tailgate to be at that was not Greek related.
Yeah.
Some of those guys had hot tubs and stuff like that. But we'd have 200, 300, 400 people at our tailgate and dancing in a circle. And we'd be doing, you know, the alligator dance or all these different dances, YMCA, and Stang would be DJing, and we'd be on top of the van leading the dance, and, you know, trying to not break our necks. I got some stories, man. I got some stories.
Just a complete different era, man. I like.
Oh yeah, the things we did.
They don't get it.
Yeah, we took over like what is now I think B3.
Yeah.
I think that area was all students. That whole north end of the parking lots was all students, and we would take over like probably 50 or 60 spots with just our tailgate. And you could do that back in because there was nobody going to the games.
There was
you know?
We tailgated my freshman year, right where the south end zone is and the south parking lots. That was student grass. That was grass. And I remember kind of the same deal. I think our one of our guys had like a VW Bug or van of some sort or whatever, and we would cash in every week's pop cans and beer cans, and that would go towards the pony keg or the party ball. You know, you should be able to buy those party balls. You know that.
I know. I remember.
And they'd be inside the van, and then everybody else would have an empty like soda can, and we just reach in there and fill that, and then walk around with a soda can. So the cops
because that's when campus kind of went dry because the drinking age went up. So I was before the drinking age. We were grandfathered in, and we so you were, you know, you were an amateur, we were professionals. What we would do is we would we would load the van full of kegs from the keg shop.
Yeah.
And remember, I know you don't remember this because they couldn't have been doing it when you were there because not enough people were drinking. They had a frequent keg buyer program. When you bought 20 kegs, you got one free. No shit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you had a punch card. Okay. And we would get free kegs all the time because we were buying them by the dozen.
Oh, yeah.
So we were their best customers damn near. Because we were having parties all week long. I was having a good time.
Well, see,
that
makes a lot of sense because my freshman year, there was a junior on our floor, and he would tell the story of the RA on Friday afternoons when you get off the elevator. There were 2 kegs in the lobby of the floor, and the RA was handing out beer, and I was like, when did this happen?
Well, we used to have daiquiri parties in the den in the towers. On Friday afternoons, we'd be out there with blenders. We'd have like half a dozen blenders and just pouring daiquiris and pina coladas for their sister floor. Anything you could do to get the girls on the floor, because that's when it wasn't co-ed back then. You only had one co-ed floor in the building.
Yeah.
I think there was one in 2 of the buildings, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was each building. The 4th floor was co-ed. But we had
the first house meeting that we had as freshmen. They had this house award that they would nominate to whatever individual on the floor did the dumbest shit the previous week. And for their way to give it out the first week is all the freshmen had to go down to the 2nd floor, which was a women's floor, and knock on the door and ask and get 1 piece of underwear and bring back to show. And I'm like, you guys might as well just hand me the fucking award. Like, I'm a fat kid who has no game whatsoever. Nobody's going to give me their panties. Like, you are fucking crazy. And I just remember going down there and knocking on the door of this random door. And this girl opened the door, and all I said is, you don't know me, but I need a pair of your panties. And she looked at her roommate and goes, should we give him some good stuff? And she's like, yeah, give him some good stuff. And I think I went up with like a matching pair of bra and panties. But that's how they gave out the house award the first time. Again, no way would they ever do that now.
No, you got sympathy panties. How cool is that, though?
Right, yeah, right. I know, if I could only bottle that. Yeah, I was like, I am so gonna get stuck with this house award. And it was this gigantic, it was probably 5-foot silicone double-ended dildo.
Oh God, great.
And
great, yeah.
One year,
did you have to carry it around with you like the class and stuff like that?
Oh God, no.
Okay.
But it is in I was going through in 2020. I was going through a bunch of old photos. Caitlin was with me, and I found the house photo that we took, the official, everybody was all dressed up. Yeah. And then the next one, they let us be silly, and sure enough, this guy got this thing hanging over his shoulder, and I had forgot about it. And Caitlin goes, "What the fuck is that?" And I was like, "Oh, that's the house award." My roommate won it one time for being too drunk. I don't know. He peed all over something. Anyways, my parents came up like that week, and of course we had our beds hung up. They were on the racks, and those had like little rungs underneath, and he had stuck that thing, and it was just hanging over our couch like this. When you sat on the couch, it was just hanging right in front of you. And there was beer cans all over. We had been drinking, and it was a Saturday morning, and my parents came up to take me somewhere, and I had forgot they were coming up, and my mom walked in that room and saw all the beer cans and looked over and saw that thing hanging there, and she just walked out and she goes, "Melvin, I'm going to the fucking car, and I'm never coming back up here again."
Yeah, I remember parents' weekend. My mom came up with her husband, and she was just she caught wind. She saw the van, and she saw us dancing on the van, and she was just he was from Greece. He didn't understand college football. He didn't understand any of it, and he was just fascinated by the whole ordeal. But he was like rooting for me. He was like, "Hell yeah, you go, kid." And my mom was completely mortified. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm so proud. There's my son dancing on his yellow van, drunk off his ass, with 300 people mimicking his moves." It was something.
Sure. Yeah. No, it was a time for sure.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was a different age. It was a different era. We could get
oh,
away with. Thank God we didn't have cell phones.
well, yeah, I told that Caitlin one time too. I was like, listen, you make mistakes same as I did. The only difference is 50,000 people can't see it within 30 seconds. Like
Yeah,
you're fine. So,
yeah,
uh, let's go ahead and get a word from one of our sponsors here, Robertson Distilling Company, and then Barry, what I'd love to do is come back and let's talk about after graduation, where you went, your career,
okay,
and then let's talk about your cyclone trips and some of those iconic memories. So,
all
we'll
right,
be
sure.
right back with Barry Peterson.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com.
All right, and we're back with Barry Peterson. Thank you again to our primary sponsor of Revelton Distilling Company. Rob and Christy Taylor down there in Osceola do a bang-up job. We drank way too much Revelton over the weekend at the tailgate. I went to Costco and met Rob, and he signed a couple bottles, and one of them was directly said, "Enjoy with Cyclone fans only," and that's what we did, Barry. So 120 proof bourbon. We had to mix a little bit with it, but it was a good day.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, so you graduate from Iowa State.
Eventually.
Right, yes. Well, we all did. So what was next for Barry?
So I had visited Texas, Austin specifically, when I was in middle school. I think it was when it was 7th, 8th grade, something like that. And I fell in love with. We had relatives down there, and I fell in love with Austin. And I made once again, making a decision and sticking and following through. A month after I graduated, 6 weeks, something like that, I was in Austin. I had to pack my car. I didn't have a dime to my name. I had a credit card to buy gas. I was in a 78 Ford Fairlane, or Ford Fairmont, not a Fairmont, nothing as cool as a Fairlane, and drove to Austin with my car packed full of crap and stayed with my cousins until I found a job. Started the job at a box company doing quality control. And that didn't last very long. We had a lot of philosophical differences, and I was just dumb. But I had started bartending because I had bartended at Ames, and so I'd started bartending to make some money until I could find a job. And so I stuck with that, and I bartended there for a couple of years. At a country bar. We played both kinds of music, country and Western. So did that for a couple of years, and then I ended up getting one of my customers actually had a construction company building cell phone towers, and he was looking for somebody to take his burden and make it theirs, and kind of do all the heavy lifting, running the company. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but for some reason he thought maybe I was that guy. So I came in and he kind of showed me the ropes, and over the course of time kind of taught me everything I needed to know to be successful. And I did that, building cell phone towers, radio towers. We did everything. And I did that for about 8 years, I guess, 7 or 8 years. Became very good. It's something I was very good at, something I enjoyed. I'd been in Austin then at that point for 10 years, and things had just kind of run their course. I wasn't making as much money as I felt I should for the amount of effort I was putting in. I was underpaid, I was overworked, and I'd had a bad relationship, and it was time to make a break. So I loved Austin. Austin didn't love me at that point, so it was time for me to break up with Austin. So I had an opportunity through one of my previous customer contacts to move to get a job in Dallas, also in telecom, building switching centers and overseeing that nationally. That was going to be more of a traveling type job. So I packed up and I moved on to Dallas, to McKinney, which is north of Dallas, which is where I still live. And I did that for a while, and then I did some back and forth. Did a little bit back and forth between a couple different jobs. That company ended up going bankrupt. I moved up another level to a different company. Kind of went back and forth, and then I ended up back at the company who had bought the other company, the bankrupt company, out of bankruptcy. And okay. I had some friends there, and I'd gone through some stuff, and it was time for another change. So I went and started working for that company at that time, and was doing network engineering, which is kind of boring, but it was a really great stair step to move into a sales engineering role, which is a lot. You're commissioned, you can make some money doing that, and this was for a CLEC at the time, which is a competitive local exchange carrier. So all this is in telecom. This is landline. Then we got bought by a large company with a red check mark. I'm not going to say the name, but you can connect the dots. And that's where I work today. And I've had a few different roles there, but most recently I'm what they call an overlay. I'm a kind of a sales engineer, salesperson, and I wear a lot of different hats. I'm kind of like a jack of all trades who runs RFPs through the system from soup to nuts. Okay. And I do that. So it's something I'm pretty good at, something I do well at, and yeah, it's a good fit for me, because I'm dealing with fiber again. Okay. I'm dealing with cell towers again. It's a little different way of approaching them. I'm providing dark fiber to our competitors on a lease basis to light up their cell phone towers for 5G. Sure. So that's the easiest way I can do it to make it understandable. I could get really technical, but nobody wants to. So
that's all right.
So yeah,
I find people's career arcs fascinating, because one of the themes that I've found is, it's not always where you think you're going to be, right? You left college, you probably not thought that that's the industry you're going to be in or whatever, but
nope.
Somebody at some point gave you a chance.
Yep.
Right? That's what I always find fascinating. I have a friend of mine, Dave Campbell, who did radio for years here, and he tells the story. He left radio and fell into an editing job and ran and edited a magazine and was a full editor for the majority of his career, right? Like, but somebody gave him a chance. And I remember we've talked a lot tonight about how things are so much different in the past than what they are now. And I just feel like stories like yours, stories like Dave's, just don't happen very often anymore, because people don't look at people as people anymore. They just see a resume and what you've done before and go, nope, but he's not qualified, and move on. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just fascinating to me that if that was today, you probably wouldn't have that job.
No, definitely not. I was every job I've ever had was due to a connection, due to a network. I haven't interviewed for a job since I haven't had an actual real interview for a job since probably 2003. And because every job I've had since then basically has been somebody I knew interviewing me. So and it was more checking the box. And there was a couple in there. I'm not gonna. I think maybe I'm forgetting something, but in order to get where I've been, this job I have now, I was told that I was getting this job. I was voluntold. I got a phone call on January 2nd of 2018 from my current director saying, "Hey, we've got this position. here's what it entails. And he's explaining it to me, and I'm listening. I'm like, that sounds right up my alley. I definitely want to put my hat in the ring on this one. I'm definitely going to put my resume in. And he starts wrapping up the call. And he's like, so this will be effective immediately. and I'm like, I'm in shock. And he said, well, Barry, it's not all bad news. And I'm thinking, there hasn't been any bad news yet, but okay.
Right. Sure.
And he said, yeah, it comes with a raise and a bonus. And I'm like, or a raise and a raise and a promotion. I'm sorry, a raise and a promotion. And I'm like, I've just fallen into chocolate pudding,
Right.
How
Yeah.
awesome. And that's what I've been doing, so I didn't even have to interview for that job. And then what's funny is they were building a team, and I was helping interview the people that were going to be on my team, because I was helping my boss do that. He was running people past me, and he's telling me, oh, this guy's resume, he has this and this and this, but he not that. And he's going through all this stuff, and I'm listening to what he's looking for, and I'm thinking to myself, I never would have got hired for this job had I had to go through this interview process. So
Yeah.
I've been so fortunate. I've had people looking out for me, and I think Grandpa's been looking out for me for, over my shoulder for years, in spite of my being a dumbass.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't deserve it, but I've been really fortunate, and I've had a lot of great people in my life to, kind of help me succeed in spite of myself.
Yeah, I can tell you that I'm 54 years old, and I finally now feel like I'm in a position in a job where somebody gave me that chance, right? Every job that I gotten before, it was a cold interview, and then you had to work, and prove yourself, and then you would get it. And this last job that I have now, and the company that I work for now, is kind of I just remember in the second interview process, I had just said, I may not have the experience that you are looking for or whatever, but there won't be anybody that doesn't come into this job and doesn't work as hard as I do every single day and roll my sleeves up and give me an honest day's work. And I
Yeah.
think that guy needed to hear that. You know what I mean? I think that's what sold him on it.
Yeah.
So it's just the theme of tonight's episode sounds like is, it's just a different era. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
So
It is, but I think some of the same stuff can be, some of the stuff we learn can be applied. It's just got to be applied differently. And I think what the part of the problem is young people today, young men specifically, it's a tough time to be a young man right now.
Yeah.
It's a tough time to be a young person in general. The young men are going through, they're getting a lot of bad information from bad sources. There's this whole manosphere thing out there that is really, it's just crazy to me. And then there are challenges that didn't exist when we were kids, but I think the basics are still apply. You got to learn how to communicate with people. You got to learn you have to be fearless in your ability to put yourself out there.
Right.
You have to, I had, as the DFW Cyclones president, I had, every year we did a send off for the kids going to Iowa State from North Texas, and when they still do it, and I would always have a few minutes where I would just kind of talk to the kids and give them some of my wisdom for whatever that's worth. I thought it was worth something, but maybe they probably looked at me and said whatever. But I always told them, I said, when you go to school, learn, when you go to school, you go to the classes, do all that. That's obviously what you're there for, but don't just do that. Get involved, go to the meeting, talk to the weird kid. If you're not going to talk to the weird kid, be the weird kid. Go to the club meeting that you probably would go to, the photography club or this club or that club, something that you have zero interest in, and just go to a meeting and just see, maybe,
Right.
Find something, get out of your comfort zone, and all that. Go to the football games, get involved. If you, and I would end it with this, and there was more to it. I don't want to, go drone on about it, but if you, and I would always say, at the end of the day, when you graduate and you come back home from Ames, wherever home may be, or wherever college you're at, when you leave, if you are the same person on that day than you are right now before you enter college, no matter how good your grades are, you fail.
Yeah.
Because it's about personal growth. It's about getting out of because that's what life is. Life is not comfortable. In the real world, when your career, you're gonna have to get out there, and you're gonna be dealing with people that you don't like necessarily. You're gonna have to figure it out. You're going to have to learn to live with these people, work with these people. That's just how it works. Nobody's going to protect you.
Yeah.
So get hurt in college. It's a safe environment. Have your heart broken. Get rejected. All that's what college is about. It's a safe space, so to speak, for that kind of stuff, that kind of failure, or success. Whatever. But just make sure you grow. Don't be the same person on day 1200 as you were on day one.
Sure. The Alumni Association of DFW is quite the group. I followed you guys on Twitter, and anytime there's a trip, anytime there's a game down in that area, you guys always coordinated stuff, whatever. Talk just a little bit about how much fun it was to be the head of that.
Well, let's start by saying my wife's a saint. She put up with that crap and I say crap. She put up with me.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, for 12 years. I was the president of the club, and I think it happened. I think we started in 12, if I'm not mistaken, in 2012. And it was when it all kind of happened really oddly how I got involved with it. But when TCU joined the Big 12, that was kind of our breakout period, because it was an opportunity for us to have an event. We had something we could kind of build around, and that being a football game locally. And I had been around friends in Austin who were doing that. JC Hoyt, Matt Borgstrand had really kind of got the Austin group off the ground to where they were doing really cool tailgates and stuff like that I had been involved with, really close friends of mine. And I saw what they had done, and I wanted to emulate that. And I thought we could do it on a grand scale in Dallas. And so I just kind of, I had a job that allowed me to spend time data mining cyclones in the DFW area and surrounding areas. And I would just started building a newsletter mailing list. And I just hammered people. You were opted in until you opted out. So, and if you came to one of our events and you signed one of our pieces of papers, you were opted in again.
That's right.
And then we got there was a whole series of events, and I talk about my wife. She's a saint, but I had also had this great group of people that I call them the usual suspects, the people who do all the heavy lifting behind the scenes, the guys, these men and women, who are sometimes a lot older, that have some time on their hands that could help run a tailgate, or do game watches, or just make the everyday blocking and tackling. Without those people, none of that exists. There's no DFW Cyclones without them. I was kind of I think I was kind of the I don't want to get over. I was just kind of the guy who drove the car. That everybody was telling me what to do. They were building the car. I had a vision of some sort of, hey, we can do something big here, and I had this goal of having a scholarship for a DFW Cyclone scholarship that was endowed.
Yeah. And
so we started raising money, doing the tailgates, and we started building. That started kind of snowballing. We got a little notoriety at a couple of basketball games, the Gold Rules game at TCU. Where we actually had more fans in the stands than TCU did at their own home arena. And that's not hyperbole, that we did. No. And you could hear us in the background doing Cyclone Power during the game. And George Niang commented on the post game with Walters. That kind of launched us through the help of Cyclone Fanatic. Yeah. Chris and Brent and those guys were. Yep. They kind of allowed us. I would tell those guys, hey, we're going to do something, and then they would talk about
Yeah.
And I would get on, and then that led to some radio interviews and a couple of TV interviews. And suddenly we had this thing, and we were teaming up with the Austin group and having tailgates with 1,200 people out.
Yeah.
And we're serving, and it's all you can eat and drink, Texas barbecue and all the beer you can drink, all day long before the game. It kind of just evolved, and that was the Austin group. They ran a lot of that, but we helped. And so it was kind of a teamwork thing. We took care of the game tickets. We were selling 700-800 tickets and handling large amounts of money. And we were doing it nearly flawlessly.
Yeah.
You don't know, the people don't know what's screwing up because they don't know what it's supposed to look like. So if they don't know what it's supposed to look like, they don't know what's wrong.
I will tell you that the one thing amazing about Cyclone fans is man, they come in droves, and they support, and if something catches their eye, it's on fire. I can remember before the Vegas game, I was teasing around, and I had put a shirt design out that just said Visha Las Vegas, kind of like Viva Las Vegas.
I love it.
And I had printed.
I never saw that.
I ordered one T-shirt from Rush Order Tees. It cost me like $40, and I took a picture of it and put it on Twitter, and I got probably 15 DMs within 5 minutes saying, "Hey, where'd you get that shirt?" And I was like, "Well, I made it." I was like, I can order them, but in order to get it to a decent price, I got to sell at least 50 of them. So I put that out on Twitter, and I sold 75 of those shirts. So, so then the head of the Alumni Association in Las Vegas messages me.
Yeah, I know her.
I saw that Visha Las Vegas shirt. Do you think you could redesign the Fabulous Las Vegas sign into a shirt, but change it to Fabulous Cy Vegas? And I was like, well, I work in marketing. I do graphic design. I'm like, that takes me 2 seconds. Hold on, and send it to her. And she's like, can you make those? Because I could probably get you some orders. So I gave her the link, and I can't tell you how many of those I sold. It paid for at least my wife's plane ticket to Vegas for our trip. I didn't want to make a bunch on it, but I'm going through all the work. I'm going to make something.
Yeah.
And that just kind of took off, and I was like, and it was crazy walking around Vegas, and I was like, holy shit, there's my shirt. That guy's wearing my shirt.
Yeah, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, just all of a sudden a spark, and then something goes on. I mean, it's the same thing with the ambulance. People stop by at RV Village, said hi, got their picture taken, whatever else, and I've had quite a few people reach out to me and say, hey, well, I knew Saturday night when the ambulance broke down and the transmission went out, I told my wife, I said, I mean, it's going to cost us, but I guarantee you I'll put a tweet out and somebody knows somebody that can help us get it fixed, and whatever. And sure enough, within 5 minutes, I had a bunch of DMs, and I had Keith Stragi got me connected with a guy, and I think we're going to be able to get it fixed. But it's just that kind of stuff. Like, they take care of each other. You know what I mean? It's super cool. So,
and just the whole, all the tailgates we did and everything else, the amount of people that I've met and I've befriended, I always said the best worst paying job I ever had was being the DFW Cyclones president. I loved it. I've made so many friends as a result of it. I've made so many connections as a result of it. I know you as a result of it, as well as a variety of other people. I could list a who's who of people that I have their numbers in my phone.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, holy crap, you have his number, you have their number. Wow, that's cool. I've been so fortunate to be able to be at basketball practices. I've done different things as a result of this connection. And it's opened a lot of doors. It's fun. And the worst thing on my worst day, I have to hang out with Cyclone fans. How horrible is that?
Right.
The best fans in the country, as far as I'm concerned. It's just the most just good people. You don't find we have our assholes. They're out there.
Oh yeah.
But they are so dwarfed and so shadowed.
Yeah.
In the shadows of all the great people. And our fan base is loaded with great people.
A perfect example of that is this last weekend. I was thinking about this. Friday evening, I got an email from the athletic department because I had a public grass lot. That's what I park in. And it basically said, gave the rules and things like that. And it said in there, we do not allow short buses, box trucks, RVs, etc. And I was like, what does etc. mean? I have an ambulance. I'm not sure, now I'm getting nervous. What if I drive all the way up there and they say, sorry, not this year. We're not going to let you in here. So I emailed Jamie Pollard. And I was, very polite. I was like, hey, I'm just confused. Like, I'm not asking for anything special. I'm not asking for anything out of the ordinary. I just need a clarification here. And I know you probably don't have the answer, but you've always answered my emails before.
And he does it. And he does it in the number of minutes you can count on two hands.
Yes. Within 30 minutes, I had an email back from him. And he was like, I understand your concern. As far as I know, nothing's changed from the previous years, but here's the gentleman that runs the parking. I've copied him in, and hopefully he can give you some clarification.
Yeah.
That gentleman, Blair, emailed me 20 minutes after that and clarified and said, listen, I think you're going to be good. We're not out there with measuring sticks and whatever else. We just want to make sure people aren't driving in there and big stuff. And so I think you're good. But to alleviate your concern, here's a free RV Village pass. Enjoy the weekend and go Cyclones. And I told my wife, I said, no way Alabama, Iowa, like there's no way they would do that.
No.
You know what I mean? Like that's the Cyclone family.
And that's the unpublished stuff, that the administration sometimes gets a bad rap for this or that. We could talk about beer sales and all that crap. We could have a conversation about that. I could argue both sides of it, honestly. But I have a similar story, with Jamie specifically. I called, I can't remember, him and I were talking about something on an email back and forth, probably about one of our events. And I said, oh, by the way, I'm going to be up there for the Texas game this weekend. And I'm bringing my dad. And he pinged me back. He's like, hey, do you have tickets yet? And I said, no, I'll get some. I'm not worried about it. And suddenly I had tickets in my mailbox, in the brand new Sukup end zone club.
Right.
So I was able to take my dad. Jamie, when we were walking in, just going back to the dad thing, right? We were walking in, and my dad loves to be. He likes to have not special treatment. He loves it when he feels like a big shot. He loves to feel like a big shot.
Yeah.
And we won't come walking in, and Jamie just happened to be standing outside the Sukup, and I walked up and I introduced my dad to him, and I shook his hand and thanked him for the tickets. And it was just random. It was just, I happened to bump into Jamie everywhere. It's the weirdest thing. And he always gives me way more time than I deserve. I am not a big donor. Let's be clear. I'm not. I've donated a ton of time.
Right.
And blood, sweat, and tears, but money is not high on the list of things I've given to Iowa State. But my dad, he treated my dad like a king. He's like, hey, your son this. And my dad walked away. His chest was out. That was like a great day for him, Yeah. Cause my son knows the AD, and it was a big deal for him, and that was a cool moment for me. Cause my dad got to see, that, hey, what I do is actually recognized somehow.
Yeah.
Cause he knows how much effort I put into the club down in Dallas. Right. So, stuff like that. There's all kinds of, there's so many people that have stories like that, like I said, Jamie gets he gets a lot of shit, that some of it he probably deserves, but at the end of the day, he's a really good dude.
He really is. Yeah.
He's got his heart. And when I email that dude, I'm getting a response almost immediately. 5 minutes.
He's come on this pod. He's went on Side of the Storm.
Jamie loves a camera. Let's be real.
Oh, I know. When we moved into this house, this basement was not finished, and we had just finished it. And I had told my wife, I said, I want to make this my Cyclone man cave. And I don't know. You've probably seen photos. There's wall to wall Cyclone stuff down there.
Yeah. And
I emailed Jamie Pollard and said, I've finished this basement, and it's going to be a tribute to the boys and to the Iowa State Cyclones. I said my stepsons, Josh and Jordan, were the first ever kid captains in Jack Trice in 2011.
Wow.
And as a thank you to them, I'm going to put up their kid captains uniforms. But I would just love, if you have anything laying around that you would like to donate, I would love that. And he emailed me back. He said, you'll have a package in a few days. And I had a game worn jersey and a handwritten note to the boys.
Wow.
And it's sitting here framed in this basement with the
That's
note
fantastic.
inside of it. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So it's things like that that really, to your point, there's some times that he can, say some things
Yes.
and you're like, "Oh, come on." But, after a while you're just like the guy's a good dude. So
And the thing is, he's not afraid. He'll answer every question. You might not like the answer, but at least he's answering the questions. There's a lot of people who just hide behind their desk, and they don't want to deal with that, and
yeah,
so they'll just no
right.
comment all day long. Jamie, you never have to worry about Jamie saying no comment. That's for sure.
Yeah. Let's take a break. This is 2 quick segments, and then we're gonna get out of here, Barry, because it's late and I'm
Okay.
old and I got to go to the gym in the morning. The first segment is this is going to be the Kyle Lehman Wintrust question of the pod. So it's going to have a little bit of fun here with this question. What is your top Iowa State moment that you've witnessed in person? And if you could go back and change one Cyclone event, which one of those would that be? So think about that, and we're going to get an ad from Kyle, and when we'll come back and get your answer to those questions, okay?
Perfect.
Whether you're buying, selling, or refinancing your home, or if it's simply time to renovate the one you're already living in, you need an experienced mortgage professional to help you analyze your financing options and to make sure the closing goes smoothly. And that's exactly what you get when you call Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. Kyle's experience and expertise, coupled with Wintrust's rates and programs, ensures you'll get the mortgage that's right for you. You may even qualify for down payment assistance. Before you reach out to a realtor, call Kyle and get pre-qualified, empowering you to start shopping for the home of your dreams. Call Kyle at 515-473-0546. Kyle Lehman Wintrust Mortgage, 515-473-0546.
All right, and we're back with Barry Peterson. That was from Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. I would love to go get another mortgage from him, but he's already saved me a ton of money in 2020 when I refinanced in under 3%. So I'm not going to do that right now. But
Good move.
you should go see Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. And when you buy a house, you should contact him first and make sure you get pre-qualified. So, Barry, the question was, well, I cheated. I gave you 2 questions. What is the greatest Cyclone moment that you've witnessed, and what is one Cyclone moment that if you could go back and change in time you would change?
The greatest Cyclone moment I witnessed has to be taking my stepdaughter, she's my daughter, to Kansas City, and when we won the Big 12 championship, when we ran through Texas and Kansas. And then I can't remember who the last game was off the top of my head, but we just ran through them. And the games were phenomenal. The Texas game with the final shot, and having her with me, and then going, just celebrating that and going to the hotel afterwards and celebrating with the players and the coaches, Fred, and that entire gang, that entire team that was amazing. And having her there for that, she was there on my hip the entire time. And that was just nothing short of remarkable. And it's one of my fun. We've got some great pictures. She did not go to Iowa State, but because she's handicapped, she was born deaf, and so in the state of Texas, you get free tuition.
Okay.
Iowa State wasn't going to give me free tuition for Amber,
Right.
So she wanted to go to Iowa State, but it would have been a very costly decision. So it would.
You still be a big
we
fan.
talked about it. Yeah, we talked about it. Trust me, and I explained it to her, but she still loves Iowa State. She'll become her and her husband now will be coming up with us for homecoming.
That's
so,
awesome.
Look for me there. As far as the
one moment you could change,
Niang breaking his foot.
Yeah,
it has to be that. I was in San Antonio for that, and then that was just a moment where all the oxygen left the room, when we found out afterwards, because we were a juggernaut.
Yeah.
A close second to that would be the Michigan State final 8. I think that that was a national championship team, and I remember when we lost that game, I was just devastated. I looked at my friends. We were down in Austin, and I was with Matt and JC and that whole Austin gang watching the game, and I just I grabbed my wallet or whatever, my cell phone or whatever it was, and I just walked out. I didn't say a word to anybody. I was just
Sick.
I was dead. My whole heart died that day.
Yeah,
Because
sick.
we got jobbed, and we should have won that damn game.
I'm sure we have the pod with Marcus at Side of the Storm, so I've talked to Marcus all the time. Last week we had Stevie Johnson on that show.
Yeah.
Neither one of them have ever watched that game ever since. They've never rewatched it.
Neither have I.
And will refuse to watch it.
Yeah.
Like Marcus refuses to watch it, and Stevie said, "I can't even. The thought of even rewatching that game makes me want to puke."
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. Yeah, it was just heartbreaking. So
right.
Yeah.
We got a final segment here. This is Three Beards Media. What we try to do here, as much as we can, is give back to the community. It's one of the things that Aaron and I, when we started this company, we wanted to give back as best as we can. So one of the things that we do here on Old Man Strength is we have a segment called Shut the Fuck Up. And what this segment is inspired by Steph Copley, who was once famously on the pod and told my co-host Tim to shut the fuck up so that she could get her point across because he kept interrupting her. And we thought it was so funny. We thought we would make it a segment, but in a different way. We're going to invite you to the listeners to donate to the Young Women's Resource Center, which is a cause that's very near and dear to Steph. So we're going to play an ad here and get words from Steph about the Young Women's Resource Center and how you can donate. And then, Barry, when we come back, I have to shut the fuck up, and you're allowed to say whatever you want without any kind of interruption, and nothing is off limits. So let's get a word from Steph, and then we'll be back with Barry's STFU moment.
Hey everybody, it's Steph Copley, the woman behind the STFU segment on the Old Man Strength podcast. When I told the guys I wanted to sponsor this segment, they recommended that I make a charitable donation instead, so that's what I did. I chose the Young Women's Resource Center in Des Moines, Iowa. They're a nonprofit that supports, educates, and advocates for girls and young women ages 10 to 24. Their whole goal is to make sure that these young women become strong, self-confident, and successful. And if you know me at all, you know that aligns with my goals as well. If you're interested and would like to donate, check them out at ywrc.org and donate today. And remember, don't forget to STFU and listen every once in a while. Thanks.
All right. Be sure to donate to the Young Women's Resource Center. Also, keep an eye out on our socials. We're going to launch another campaign to help give kids at Oak Park Elementary School in Des Moines brand new toothbrushes and toiletries and personal hygiene products. It's a campaign that we did last year, so we're going to reenact that. So keep an eye on socials on how you can help Oak Park Elementary. All right, Barry, this is your moment. I will STF you, and you have the floor.
First of all, I see that my good friend and Iowa State Hall of Famer Andrew Parker is watching live. So I want to give a big shout out to Andrew. He's a legend. He lives down in the Houston area. Him and I have become very good friends, and I'm glad to see him. So, hey, Andrew. So I thought about this because I listened to a couple of pods and trying to figure out what the hell I wanted to talk about. And I think it's something I've been in a Twitter chat. We talk about different things a lot, and it's all Cyclone fans. And the one thing that as somebody who doesn't live in Ames, I go to a lot of road games. I go to games, Texas and TCU and Waco and Tech and those are all OU, Oklahoma State, and so I see how the other fans act and how there's some good and some bad, just like there is anywhere. But the one thing that I notice is that our fan base, as awesome as it is, and it's an excellent fan base. The one thing is we're a little too quiet during the games. There's a little too much politeness. It's a little too much sit down. I'm the level of fan that if I don't sit down the entire game, I'm perfectly happy. I think we need to be more vocal. We're awesome on third down. We're awesome on fourth down. The first and second down, you can hear a mouse chirp in that place sometimes. And it's to me, it's I go to other places and it's not like that. So the one thing I would say is, hey, let's amp it up a little bit. I did notice this weekend that there was a more, it seemed better. And I think it's because the sound people, there's an effort to bring the level up, the energy level. I think what happens is a lot of times during the timeouts, people just kind of lose that energy, and then it takes them a while to get ramped up. So I did see what I would consider to be an improvement, but I think there's, as a fan base, we could, man, let's just bring it all the time. A couple, and what makes me think about this is a couple of years ago, I was in the stands, and there was like 3 or 4 K-State fans sitting right behind me, and they were in the Iowa State section, and which they have every right to be, and I know that because I've been those fans in other stadiums, and they were loud. They were probably too loud. They were a little obnoxious, but that's what it's a football game. You're supposed to be cheering for your team. And we had fans that were shouting them down. And I'm just like, man, they're just being fans. Leave them alone. They weren't doing anything horrible. They were annoying, but good. That's their job. They were loud throughout the entire game. And I am the last person to give K-State fans any credit at all. But those guys damn near took a beating after the game by some of the fans because people were so mad at them. And it's like, come on, man, you know how to battle that? Be louder. Don't threaten to kick their ass and tell them to sit down and shut up. This is a freaking football game. We're not in church. Let it rip. Come on. I want their fans to be loud. I want us to be louder, period. And that's my shut the fuck up, my rant, whatever you want to call it. Let's just be better. Let's always be courteous, but damn, let's be loud. And let's be the loudest, not just the best fan base, but the loudest fan base.
Absolutely love it. Barry, thank you so much for taking the time to come on Old Man Strength. We really appreciate it. I hope everybody that listens sticks around, listen to the rest of the episodes, check out Side of the Storm with Marcus Pfizer and Brent Curvey. You won't find 2 guys that Marcus apparently thinks we're going to beat Iowa 49-3. He's awful.
Let's please. That'd be awesome.
He's awfully optimistic, let me tell you. So with that, check out the rest of the content on the Three Beards Media Network. We have Billy and Willie's workshop tomorrow night. We have chair shots and chokeholds on Thursdays. Barry, Hawkeye fans have money too, so we do have a Hawkeye View show. The guys on there are pretty okay. So and then of course, like father, like daughter, and the rest. So check out the rest of us on Three Beards Media. Go get your Revelton for the Cy-Hawk game this week. And with that, we are out of here.
Old man strength, built to last. Try to break me, you won't get past. Ain't no quit, ain't no doubt. You don't know tough till you've been worn out. One day, kid, you'll understand.